My name is Bilal Mohammed, and I'm part of the Penguin Corps. If you've been following this conference over other news and open source community over the last couple of years, you may have heard of us. Put simply, we are a Linux club that recycles computers that kids all over school and at home use. In the past, we talked about why we think our school should do the same thing. Call it a sales pitch. But today, we have something different in mind. We have spent so much time trying to persuade people that Linux in school is a good idea. We are just going to assume that you already know, agree with us. Instead, we want to show you the methods and the strategies that can help any school or organization be successful with integrating Linux into everyday use. And we know they are successful because we have used them. The ideas are tested, they work, and you are in the right place. This is a point where we start to treat this like a Penguin Corps meeting at school. Please join us for the Penguin Corps lunch. What are we trying to do?
Change the world!
How do you change the world?
Be crazy enough to think you can!
So we're going to go off with our agenda. So we're going to go with our meeting in order. Then Mr. Keroff is going to have introduction and history with the Penguin Corps. And then we're going to do Jeffrey with deployment, Yusuf with Linux and general education classroom, Kira with a deep dive learning Linux on Linux, Rania, how to get computers for Linux, Cam with student leadership, and me back with Q&A at the end. Now please welcome Mr. Stu Keroff.
You think I would have brought my remarks? How y'all doing this morning?
Good.
Awesome. Well, as Bilal said, I am Stu Keroff, and I'm glad you're here. In the fall of 2019, I was a new teacher at Aspen Academy, and I had a lot of work to do to get my classroom in shape for the school year. You know, posters, word wall, bulletin boards, all that stuff. And I also put a set of Linux laptops in my room because I was going to use an e-textbook for teaching Minnesota history. At the time, our school only had a couple of Chromebook carts, and I really didn't want to compete with other teachers for tech. Well, the kids got used to using the laptops, and they even started to help me maintain the laptops. And some of them jumped at the chance to join our school's new Linux club. The social studies teacher next door was also using an e-textbook. We taught the same subject. So I thought he could use a set of laptops too. As it turned out, the school had some really old laptops. Really old laptops that they were about to send to a recycler. So I took those, and with the help of the kids of the club, went about installing Linux on all of them. Often during the school year, our school's communication person would lead prospective parents on tours around the building. And she always made a point of stopping by my room to brag about our Linux club. I thought that was pretty cool, you know. This time, one of my young club members was with me when the tour stopped by. When the communications person got to the part about the kids and me using Linux to refurbish computers for our classes, the kid loudly boasted, "Yeah, and I did 3 of them." It was moments like that that reminded me that I was on the right track. I have been championing Linux in school since 2009 and have been leading and running Linux clubs since 2012. I am a believer in the idea that open source can positively impact people's lives. No, that is not over the top. When I go over the top, I will let you know. You kids have seen Mr. Keroff go over the top, right?
Yep.
Okay. My appeal to people about Linux and open source is simple. Open source can save a school money, can help a school avoid vendor lock-in and restrictive software licensing fees, And it can also enable you to help people you might not have been able to help otherwise. Doing this in the context of a club allows you to do all of these things and teach your kids marketable skills at the same time. It seemed like a pretty simple idea. Just because something is a simple idea does not mean it will catch on right away. Very few schools in North America make a concerted effort for teaching Linux and open source to kids, or to even use it for learning. I showed this last year. I think it's still relevant. This is a Venn diagram showing the relationship between open source and education. As you can see, the circles do not touch. They sit right next to each other with no relationship at all. Okay, for most schools, this is the way it works, and we are trying to change that. Now, how did it start? I was a new teacher in St. Paul in 2011. We just started a one-to-one laptop program, and right away, kids started breaking their laptops. I mean, right away. It's a little hard to integrate tech into your teaching when a bunch of kids no longer have tech. I got a grant of some Linux desktop computers for my room and thought that the kids who no longer have a laptop could take turns on these. Well, as it turns out, the kids loved the computers. And a few of them started hanging out in my room after school to use them. I figured since they were coming to my room to use my computers, I would teach them how the hardware and software worked. From there, quite by accident, came Minnesota's first school Linux club, the Community School of Excellence Aspen Penguins. And that's a year one picture. Yeah. From there, I came to Aspen Academy and started the group that is here today, the Aspen Academy Penguin Corps. We've been going for 4 years, and along the way, we've been trying to meet our school's multiple tech needs, which during the pandemic meant providing an at-home computer for every kid who needed one. Now, that was not every single kid in the building. Some families were able to take care of it themselves, but for every family who said we need a computer, we provided one. And that ultimately ended up being for over 350 kids. So it's about half the school. Over the course of those 4 years, we closed our school's digital divide 3 times. All with used computers, all with Linux, and all with students helping with the work. But as Bilal said, we are not here to try to persuade you into thinking that Linux at school is a good idea. We believe that our work over the years is more than enough persuasion. Today, we're here to do what may be a more difficult job, giving practical advice on how to use Linux at school. Some may ask, Linux computers at school? How would that work exactly? Through asking questions, coaching, hard work, and a lot of trial and error, we have created some strategies at school to make it more than a cool experiment for a handful of nerdy kids and their teacher. This is how to make Linux practical for everyday use at school. Is anyone familiar with Mystery Science Theater 3000? Anybody familiar with them? Okay. All right. When asked about the show, its creator, Joel Hodgson, said, "We never ask who's going to get this. We always say the right people will get this." That's our belief. We're not here to convince you. We're here to show you how, and to give you advice on some ideas that work for us and can work for you. And it's time to do that. But what's more, it's time to turn the spotlight to where it truly belongs, on my students. Thank you for listening. Please welcome Jeffrey.